Happy New Year. Good morning and good afternoon. I hope that everyone is doing well. Super excited for today's webinar. Let me go ahead and get started because we've got a lot of great stuff to cover today. By the way, we will be doing a couple of live demos and things in that regard. So stick till the end. Really look forward to your feedback on that. So really quickly, because this is not about us, but if you're not familiar with us, because I do see a few familiar faces and I do see some individuals that I have not met before. But we are a marketing agency. We've been in March, by the way, it'll be 15. I cannot believe it's 15 years already. But we're huge advocates of the associations. Our industry is better off when the associations are flourishing. We do digital marketing for that of security companies and the entire ecosystem. These are a few of the things that we do, but that's not what today's all about. We do work once again with that of the entire industry. So whether it's on the security company front, whether it's alarm dealer, integrator, guard company, patrol company, and even we work with vendors in the space as well. And if we don't know each other, I'm David Morgan, co-founder of SD Marketing. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, please scan this QR code. I've been very blessed to be able to speak and present at our industry's biggest events. And these are just a few, just to name, but once again, today is not about me. I also want to give a big thanks to our team, including Christian and many others that are helping to make this possible. A big thanks to Isabella, as Isabella reaches out to you. And I do appreciate you being very kind to Isabella, because believe it or not, there are a few individuals that are not kind to her. So I do appreciate each of you that are being very kind to her, as she is making sure that that today's session is in your calendar and things in that regard. If you'd like to schedule a meeting, feel free to use this QR code with me as well. So once again, I think this was October of this past year. We moved to Security Business Magazine. And if you'd like to read the latest article on email marketing that won't get deleted, here's the QR code to that. A big thanks to Security Business Magazine for allowing us to have our Marketing Matters column with them. Now, I want to give a big thanks to that of our two sponsors, and that's Recognize as well as NAPCO. With Team Recognize, if you're not familiar with that of Recognize, they are a leader in that of intelligent AI-based outdoor security. And most of us, I would imagine, that are in the, all of us that are in the industry, I would say 99% of us are involved with video surveillance one way, shape, or form. And when you do video surveillance, it's important to not just record crime, but to actually deter it and to have notifications and have verification. And RMR obviously is the name of the game as well for us. And all these things are included with that of our good friends at Recognize. And by the way, speaking of ISC West, which I'll talk about ISC West in just a minute, our good friends at Recognize will be at ISC West, and their booth is 34045. Once again, if you do business with Recognize or NAPCO, or if you're interested in learning more about them, if you let them know that your friends at SD Marketing sent you, I would be forever grateful. Speaking of NAPCO, so NAPCO, once again, I would imagine most of you are familiar with NAPCO, and we're very appreciative of both they and Recognize for sponsoring that of today's webinar and for sponsoring not just the webinar for exposure for them, but they understand that our industry, marketing is a really important part of our industry, and educating that of the industry is something that is part of their core value and mission. And we're very, very appreciative of that. Once again, you can virtually run your business. If you do security and or fire, you can run your business on NAPCO. They also will be at ISC West. That's coming up here in just a couple short months. Really excited about that. Their booth is 12031. So please let them know once again that your good friends at SD Marketing sent you. So in terms of, let me just actually, I have a couple of just quick poll questions for you. And if you would not mind taking out your phone and scanning this QR code, and I'd like for you guys to answer these questions honestly. And the first question is, how much marketing automation are you currently using? Is it none? Is it a little? Is it some? Or we're pretty dialed in? And if we can just once again, as you're going through this, if you can all answer this honestly, I would greatly appreciate that. And as you're answering this, as a reminder, everyone, because I know we may, I won't say be shy, but we don't want to admit to certain things in particular cases, I don't know who is answering what, nor do your colleagues know. So this is anonymous, but I want you to answer this, and I'll say this just one last time for these two more questions, this and two more. If you answer this honestly, and then I'd like for you to reflect as you see these bars moving back and forth. How are others, how are our peers throughout the country? Because as I'm taking a look once again, we've got groups from all throughout the country here. We may even have actually one or two groups from out of the country here as well. And I'd like for you to like reflect on how are they responding, versus how you responded, if that makes sense. So it does not surprise me that over half of us are stating that none, everything is manual. And by the way, we're going to cover a few foundational things. And by the way, remember, as we go through today's session, I don't want for you to take the things that I share just only literally because there are other things outside of this, but I want to change your way of thinking. I'd like for you to be thinking more strategically in terms of your marketing. Obviously, I mentioned AI a couple of minutes ago. AI has changed everything. And automation is a big part of that. So okay, so I see here a little, and then, okay, well, I do see here that zeros were pretty dialed in. Okay, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so the next question, all right, let's see if we're not having there we go. Next question is, how would you describe your company's marketing right now? Is it consistent and working well? We do some, but it's inconsistent. It stops when we get busy, and what marketing? So if we can answer that question, I'd greatly appreciate that one as well. And just once again, if you could answer that honestly. And remember, no one knows how you're answering. So let's give this just another sec here. How would you describe your company's marketing right now? And I will say, if I were new to the security industry, I would be really surprised by this. And I do appreciate us answering this honestly. It's, look, I know our industry is all about sales and I get it, but marketing is a really important piece of the puzzle. And that's why I appreciate everyone joining live today and those that will watch us on demand. Um, so, okay, so stops when we get busy. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that some of us are getting busy, but I will say this, marketing should not ever stop. Sure, we can taper certain things down or certain aspects of it, but keep that in mind. Okay, so last question is, what's your biggest marketing frustration? Is that I don't know what actually works? That's actually, is it all of the above? I don't have time for it. Leads slip through the cracks, and we'll give this just a sec. So I definitely would say all of these, and this is going to be the final question. We'll get back to that of the curriculum here. So what's your biggest frustration in marketing? Is I don't know what actually works. Leads slip through the cracks. I don't have time for it. Look, time is our worst enemy. Leads do slip through the cracks, and I'll tell you what, it is, and I'm going to be very specific about each of these key points here over these next few minutes and how we solve it, how AI can help us with these things. But each of these things, including I don't know what actually works. I do see here, I mean, I appreciate the fact that, nearly 7 out of 10 of us are stating all of the above. So I've got a question for you. Like, does this sound familiar? And let's see here. And by the way, before I move on to the slides, thank you, Eric. I appreciate your sentiment. And before I read what Eric shared, and I'll address that, I'd like for today, as a reminder, I'd like for today to be very interactive. This is not meant to be just a one-way voice, but ideally we're communicating with each other because I want to make this as hyper-personalized, especially those of us that are on live. So if you have any questions, and if you're okay with everyone knowing who you are, you can do what Eric just did, and you can do a chat to everyone. If you would prefer not to have everyone know who you are, you can do a chat to host and panelists, and I will do my best not to call you out by name. So Eric asks, our biggest issue with marketing has been that we've seen no return for our marketing investments of time and money. Eric, unfortunately, it's a common thing that we come across since we've been in business. And I will say this, look, and I'm going to overly simplify so we can get back on track here. But with marketing, it's about getting the right message in front of the right audience at the right time. Now, I know that sounds simple it sounds simple in principle, but therein lies the challenge and that of the opportunity. Keep in mind, look, some of us may be working exclusively with a residential end user. Some of us may be working exclusively with SMB and with heavy commercial, and some of us may be on the vendor side that are working through the channel. So the key here is, first of all, who are our customers? What are their needs? And we've got to make sure that for those that are in market, meaning they're searching for us, we're present on the search engines. For the lion's share of our prospects that are not in the market, they're out of market, we've got to make sure that we're building our likability, building our know, like, and trustability with them. And this is where pushing content, making sure that you're building those relationships with them. All of our webinars that we go through these things in great detail. I'm not going to get into too big detail, but I appreciate, Eric, you sharing with that. I'm very sorry to hear that. I'd be happy to, if you're interested, you can send a note to us, or Isabella can reach out to you. I'd be happy to speak with you so that we can get a little deeper into the marketing that you have done. And I can point out where there are opportunities for improvement and how you can make, because remember, and I share this with my team, I share this on conversations, I won't say daily, but it's like tiny hinges swing big doors. And the key here is making sure that, once again, I'm going to say this one last time, you've got the right message in front of the right audience at that of the right time. For out of market, it's like omnipresent, omni-channel. I mean, you want to be consistently with them. In terms of the right time for in market, someone that's actively searching for you, you've got to be present when they're searching, because otherwise you're going to go to your direct competitors. Now, so thank you, Eric. I appreciate you addressing that. Okay, so do any of these four things resonate with you? Like, perhaps our weekends, or I'll even add evenings, are spent on social media where we're manually posting, we're responding, and we're hoping that someone notices. What about this? We get the same 5 questions via email, or if we've got a chatbot, or in our online inquiries. It's over and over. We're typing the same responses. What about this? I think a couple of us, or a few of us, stated earlier in the poll, marketing stops when installs get busy. It's either feast or famine, cycle that never ends. What about this? We've got a great lead, or a potential great lead, that comes in at 2 a.m., but then it goes cold. Why? Because by the morning, they've called someone else. If you think about it, right, the companies that are growing the fastest in 26, it's not just about working harder. It's about, how do we work smarter? How do we become more efficient? How do we leverage tools to be able to help us be able to achieve that of our goals? So what if our marketing had never slept? The buyer behavior has shifted. Like, remember, as a society, we have the attention span that's less than a goldfish. We expect an instant response, whether it's 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. Automated nurturing, writing emails, or having emails that are going out without us having to physically write them at that exactly time and hitting send and scheduling them. What about having 5 to 7 emails without having to write any of them? Or systematic reviews. Reviews are really important, because many of our prospects and our existing customers, they evaluate us based on what others share. So keep in mind, happy customers can become that of a referral engine. And let's just say a hypothetical 5-person company, using some of these things that we're about to talk about, can help us feel like a 50-person plus operation. I know some of us are 50 to 100 plus in terms of our groups, the group size and things in that regard. But keep these things in mind, because it's like, okay, if we're a 50 group, how do we appear to be a 100-person operation, and so on and so forth. So here's the things that we're going to cover today. We're going to discuss, towards the end, we're going to discuss some live demos. I'm going to demo 3 things. These are going to actually be really cool stuff. We're going to talk about practical workflows and some tools that you can start using this week. All right, so specifically, we're going to talk about that of lead nurture sequences that convert cold inquiries to actual booked appointments without having to write, and here's the key, individual, like at that time emails. We're going to talk about a 24/7, 365 AI chatbot strategy that can help to capture after-hour leads and have conversations with them using AI that helps to qualify, that qualifies and actually schedules. We're going to also discuss that of review generation and referral automation. I was going to get a little deeper into that, but when we get to that, I'll get a little deeper into this. The key here is we want to turn our happy customers into a systematic lead engine with little to no ongoing effort. And here's the thing, set and forget it social media. We want to make sure that we're maintaining our online presence with, 15 to 20 minutes per month, as opposed to spending hours on this when we should be spending that time elsewhere. And we're going to be talking about this 80-20 principle. So it's like this framework, like how do we identify the 20% that yields 80% of the actual activity or the results, I should rather say. Okay, so let's talk just for a couple of minutes about that of lead nurture sequences. And remember, I'd like for you to think about this. Now, look, it's when it comes to marketing, I don't do marketing and I don't strategize with that of the groups that we work with as well as with that of our team based on my personal habits. But if you think about it, remember, I'd mentioned a couple of minutes ago about how our attention span is less than that of a goldfish. We are an instant gratification society now. And I mean, look, I don't want to embarrass anyone, but like you can, wherever you happen to be, you can raise your hand and I will virtually be able to see you. I'm just kidding, of course. But like raise your hand if you've fallen victim to a lead has come in, you didn't respond to it right away. By the time you responded to it, guess what happened? They moved on to someone else. They don't remember this. They've already gotten help with someone else. Look, we've had that issue as well. We've all had that issue. And anyone that wouldn't be raising their hand is not telling the truth because automation has not been around forever. Now, with that said, let's talk about where leads go to die. And I know this because, once again, we've worked with hundreds of groups throughout the entire country. And if we look at the typical security dealer follow-up, right? Let's say a web lead comes in. Perhaps it's during hours, perhaps it's after hours. But remember, we're all busy. So what's the typical response? As soon as we're able to, we call once, they don't answer, we leave a voicemail. Maybe we send an email, perhaps maybe we send a text message. Then what happens? We get busy with stuff, right? It could be installs, it's business. Perhaps I have other sales opportunities. By the time Wednesday, Thursday, even Tuesday rolls around, that lead goes cold. I know I share here 5+ touches and Isabella's on this and I'm not going to ask her, but like I know the answer because we talk about this daily. In some cases, it's not just 5+ touches. It requires dozens of touches in some cases, dozens of follow-ups. Why? Remember, we're not the only ones that are busy. Our prospects are busy as well. And the key here is it's going to require what it takes. And by the way, some of this needs to be that human element, but coupled with automation so that we're staying top of mind. Because if someone genuinely needed help and filled out an inquiry, whether it was on a digital ad, on our website, etc., they need help. And until they get that helps, the solution for their challenge, they still need that help. They just may be busy, may not be the number one on their priority list. And that's why making sure that we're following at a minimum 5 times, but in some cases, dozen or dozens of times. Because some of the things that I shared with Isabella is with inquiries that come to us, is our job is to get them to ultimately go to that next phase in the sales process or to have them say, no, thank you. And that's what we're looking to achieve, to get them to that next phase or no, thank you. And in our particular case, as a security company, the same thing holds true. Obviously, we have different sales cycles dependent upon who our customer is and things in that regard. Now, when we look at what automation changes, remember that, let's say that 2 a.m. over the weekend, or even during the day, but we're perhaps on a call, we can have instant acknowledgement within seconds, whether it's text message, whether it's email, whether it's AI voice. There's a little clue on one of the things that we're going to demo here in just a few minutes. I'm actually really excited to demo that. Hopefully I don't screw it up. But anyhow, so one of the things that could be done is having investing a little bit of time to create a sequence or a number of emails. So like, for example, think about this. when it comes to automating or automation, and I know we're all familiar with automation in the security industry because automation is done in that of the security solutions and services that we provide. But when it comes to marketing, if you think about some of the things that are repetitive tasks, for example, a lead comes in via that of from SEO or from ads or from, let's say we're running Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads as an example. And if they're coming in, and if we were to make an investment in time to create the content for whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 emails or notifications, and we put that in that of our automation tool, which we're going to talk about in here in just a couple of minutes, we can have emails that deliver value and that are not just checking in. And keep in mind, speaking of that, we don't want to just be saying, hey, come by for me. Do you want to schedule the next appointment? We want to be delivering value because remember, I'd mentioned a couple of minutes ago about how know, like, and trust ability is so important. We want to build how our perception is with that of our prospects, especially for those of us that have a longer sales cycle. These things can run while we're on the job site, while we're sleeping, while we're on with, meeting with our existing staff, on with a customer, on with a prospect. And it stops automatically when they respond. So all these things can be set up in things in that regard. Now I'll say this, there's a significant higher close rate with security companies that are integrating that of these types of marketing systems. Now, if you look at like and I'd like for you as I walk through this specifically, and I walk through some of these other examples, you don't necessarily have to do these literally the way that I'm sharing, because I want you to make these your own. But here's an example as to how a 5 email nurture blueprint or sequence, whereas we set it up once and it can run forever. Now, by the way, I know that we're saying runs forever, but you want to analyze this to say, okay, let's make a change to this. Perhaps, instead of sending the 4th email on day 7, maybe we're sending it on day 6, maybe we're sending this on day 3, maybe we're sending this, an hour or 2 after they meet it. So keep in mind, perhaps here's an example of this. So like immediately when a lead inquiry comes in, there can be instant acknowledgement and something helpful like a checklist or a guide, as well as removing the friction so that it's easy for them to schedule an appointment with you or to find out as to whether they're available right now to speak, things in this regard. In the second one, we can perhaps include that of a case study or testimony or some type of social proof. What are some of your other customers saying about you? The third email can be an additional educational tip and positioning us as that of the expert or that of the authority. Perhaps email 4 can be like a soft ask or like that of a free assessment offer, because keep in mind, we've been sharing education, we've been sharing information that's going to be super helpful. And then perhaps the 5th one could be a friendly follow-up and letting them know, if you're still interested, here we are. But remember, we want to be top of mind because as I'd mentioned, and not to overly simplify this, as I communicate with Isabella, who helps me on the biz dev front here at SD Marketing, we want to make sure that we are once again getting a prospect to either get them to the next phase of the sales process or they're, no thanks or not now, so that we make sure that we're being effective and efficient with that of our time. So here's a couple of things. If you want to take a screenshot or a snapshot of this, feel free to take a snapshot. And by the way, these are just a few examples, but these are some of the tools that help to make this easy. So some of these are free and some of these may be things that you already work with, excuse me, or that you already own. Okay, host and panel. So I'm not going to reference you by name. So the question is, what do we use to manage? Okay, let me know without me saying your name if after I get through this slide, if this is not answering your question. But in terms of some examples of this, by the way, if any of us have a CRM, you may want to go to their knowledge base, go to their help center, find out some of the things, automation things that they do that can help you with these things. But as an example, HubSpot is a very integrated, high-end CRM. It does have a free version to it. There also are paid versions. It's more of a freemium type offer, whereas it has some of the basic fundamental things that it does. But if you want all of the bells and whistles, there's the paid versions of it. There's Brevo, which is formerly not the Brevo in our industry, but this Brevo/Brevo, which is formerly Sendinblue. There's also Zoho as a CRM. But keep in mind, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these types of email/CRM/automation tools that can help you with this. And you want to take into consideration that of the existing platforms that you work with, your existing CRM, and in some cases, even your website host. Like, for example, many of us have websites that are based on WordPress, and the forms on WordPress are powered by that of usually form. What am I trying to say here? Like form plugins. That's what I was trying to say. And some of these plugins have very powerful backends to them that allow for some of these auto responses and things in that regard, so that when someone fills out a form, you're responding to them immediately and things in that regard. But before you buy anything new, so make sure you audit what you already have. And some companies, look, many of the companies in our space, and not just in our space, but even outside of our space, they're only using a small fraction of their marketing tech capabilities and things that they're already paying for. So that's the big thing. So going back to the question, what do we use to manage? Okay, so specifically for that of the automation, it's going to be a CRM or an email marketing platform. Most of the CRMs will automate some of the things that I've talked about. Keep in mind there are text messaging platforms, and some of the CRMs, the robust CRMs, they not only will do automation with that of or scheduling, which we're going to talk about social media here in just a moment, but like have these workflows. And I'll actually show you an example of a workflow here in just a few minutes when we get to that of the live demos. Just so you can get a general understanding with one particular thing about, okay, if this happens, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and all these things. I'll show you as to how these things are built and things in that regard in just a few minutes. So even things like a MailChimp or Constant Contact on the email platforms, when you have a user, let's just say, for example, someone signs up for a newsletter, and you've got like the newsletter sign up widget on your website. When they go in and they fill in their information, let's say that form happens to be powered by Constant Contact. When someone gets enrolled into that of into that audience or into that list, you can have things set up with automation so that let's just say if I fill out a form, when David fills out that form, all of a sudden I'm going to immediately get something. Perhaps you have like lead magnets. Maybe you have like, checklist, and there are other things that could be done that are a little more robust than that. But let's say a case study, downloading useful information. And when they fill that out, automatically you send them things. But as you send them that, whatever it is that they signed up for, then you can follow up with these other things as well, things in that regard. So I hope that answers your question. But if not, if you want to ask a follow-up question, I can address it as directly as possible. Okay, so let's get into that of the 24/7, 365 AI chatbot strategy. And the key here is to capture needs not only when we're sleeping, not just after hours, but even during hours. Well, it's interesting. I'm very envious of the youth of the members of my team, because I am the oldest one here in my team. And back in the day, before text messaging was around, it was just about making phone calls. And fast forwarding to now, the beginning of 2026, I do a lot more text messaging than I do phone calls. And why? Because time, being efficient. If I have a quick question, things in that regard. My point being here is our prospects, we want to remove the friction from them doing business with us. Perhaps they want to pick up the phone and call. We need to make sure that our phone number is front and center. Perhaps they want to fill out a form and get some information, when the time is right. Perhaps they want instant information, but they don't want to make a phone call. And that's where chatbots come into place. We want to remove friction, make it easy for our prospects to do business with us during business hours and after business hours. So look, let's think, let me ask you this question, and I'm asking this more rhetorically. It's like, when do our prospects research security? And look, most website visits, they happen outside of business hours. And in our case, let's say it's many. Maybe it's not most, but maybe it's many, but it's a big enough percentage, even if it's only 10% of website visits that happen after business hours. What happens? When you don't have automation, let's say a visitor browses at after hours at 10 o'clock, they fill out a form and nothing happens until the morning. And in many cases, by then, they've moved on. That's a big problem. But when we have AI-based chat, or even just a chatbot, we have an instant response. It's like something, having that conversational AI and things in that regard, looking for that of a security consultation, it can answer some of their basic questions. And by the way, I'm not saying that you just upload a chatbot, you enter some code on your website, and voila, it just does all this magic. This is where it is critical to make sure that we're providing it with your frequently asked questions, provided with information that's going to be able to help some basic information. And by the way, we also do not want to lie or mislead. We want to make it very evident that it's AI. Like as we and our prospects and our customers, like more and more of this is the mainstay. When you take into consideration some of the companies that you do business with, there's more and more of this, and these chatbots are getting better and better. So with this, it can capture some of their information. It can book an appointment on your calendar, and all this can be done during business hours and after business hours. If you look at that of the difference between the modern AI chatbots versus some of the old FAQ bots, in 26, the chatbots use natural language processing and they feel human. We're going to actually demo this in just a couple minutes and things in that regard. So if you look at the old scripted ones, it was limited to pre-programmed responses. And a lot of the times it said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And what happens as a result? It frustrates that of your users. And it felt robotic and unhelpful. As opposed to some of the modern bots, it understands the intent and what the context is. It's able to handle complex questions naturally. It's like, for example, I would imagine many of us use ChatGPTs or the LLMs, the large language models. And if you take into consideration over the years, they've gotten much better. It still requires us being able to be strategic with it, to ask the right questions, to be able to properly engage with it. But that is the underlying principles or tools or frameworks that these modern chatbots are built on. So depending upon how you have things programmed, it can also qualify leads with smart questions. It can book appointments directly, and it can hand off to humans. Because remember, these can be helpful even during business hours. It can hand off to humans when it's needed. Here's the key. You want to always offer a path to a real individual. I don't mean to state the obvious. I know we all know this. We are an industry of people, of communicating with others. But once again, this can help us to scale without having to look, our biggest expense for all of us is what? It's people. It's our members of our team. And I will say this, with all these things that I'm describing, it is critical for us to continue to invest in our adoption of AI, to learn how these things work, to become more effective, efficient, because for me, I am not as concerned about AI taking over our business. I'm concerned with someone that knows AI better than me and than us taking over that of our business. And I want you to really think about that. So when it comes to that of setting up that of our AI chatbot, I'd like to talk really quickly about 3 steps. So, and if you want to take a snapshot of this, feel free to take a snapshot of this as well. So here's a few. And once again, there are dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of these tools, and more are almost popping up daily. But Talk 2, it's 100% free with unlimited agents and unlimited chats. Tidio has a free tier with 50 conversations per month, and HubSpot free CRM includes that of a basic live chat. Once again, take into consideration what's your current tech stack. Does it offer these kinds of things? Your website host may offer some of these free chat tools. Your CRM may be having some of these features that you may not even know existed. So I would once again take a look at what you presently have, see as to whether there are some of these things that are already in place that you just have to activate, or it's a nominal additional fee. Because as you're investing in these tools, you want to minimize your tech stack because to keep things simpler, it's just like with the lines that we carry in security, we don't want to just, It's not as simple as adding lines because then all of our sales team, our technicians, our administrative team, we have to know how all these things work. The same thing holds true with this here in marketing. Okay, step two, we want to define what it handles. uh, from the FAQ perspective that we're feeding it, we want to make sure that we're adding a number of things, including what are the service areas? Talk about, we're looking, what are our hours? What are, we're ultimately looking to achieve some free estimates or scheduling appointments. What are some of the frequently asked questions? Like when you have prospects that are coming in, what are the questions that they're asking? And by the way, I know that a chat just came out. I'm going to take a look at this just a sec. I'd like for us, this is really important. Please make sure you jot this down. It is critical to have your team start to build a repository. Perhaps you have a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, or at Microsoft. I know that they do this as well with Word and things in that regard. Have a shared doc so that whenever a question comes in from during the sales process or from a existing customer, you have a customer that's calling in, start jotting down those questions and the answers. And by the way, you can use tools, and if they're long things, you can dictate these things. There are tools that will help you to transcribe what you're saying so that it can help you to jot these down, because this will not only be helpful in a manual process when you are onboarding new staff, but also being able to add more valuable, or I would say invaluable content to these types of things that would be very, very helpful. Keep in mind, these things can also capture leads, including all the basic contact information. It can also book directly if your calendar integrates that. Let me just take a look to see as to what came through. Okay, so I'm not going to reference you by name. So my former employer was a multimedia service company, and their ability to use this technology was unlimited. However, the quality of their equipment, installs, and technicians was well below accepted industry standards. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I would imagine this is probably why it's your former employer. But I will say here, I will say this. One of the things that limits us with automation, with AI, is our imagination. I mean, I want you to think for a moment and jot this down as well. What are the things that we're doing? Some of these things are marketing, some of these are sales, some of these are administrative, some of these are service, et cetera, et cetera. What are the things that take a lot of our time? And how can we automate that? And remember, Rome was not built in one day. It was built over time. I am very guilty of having shiny object syndrome and jumping from, item to item. And when I try and accomplish too much, what happens? I drop everything. But if I make a plan in terms of this is a critical thing that I want to get done within a week or two or three or a day, depending upon what it is, I focus on that. Then I move on to the next, or I have a few things, and I'm doing these in a particular sequence. This may not be addressing what you've just shared, but I think these things are important as well. But this is an issue, what you just shared. I keep wanting to say your name, but I won't say your name out of respect. Once again, I appreciate the feedback in the chat. And as a reminder, if you send a chat to everyone, then I will reference you by name, and I will do the best. If you send it to host and panelists, it'll only come to me, and I will do my absolute best to not reference you by name. Okay, so step 3 in terms of setting up our AI chatbot is to train and test. And remember, I talked about the training already, and that's where giving it the input, giving it the FAQs, sharing a lot of insights, things in this regard. Some of the things that you can do is you can feed it, in many cases, like your 10 most common questions. I would even go a little bit further than that. You want to add that in your service areas. Some of the things, like when I say your specialties, these are all the things that you do. And like you want to summarize the things that you do on your website, these frequently asked questions, and you want to test it, like test it with weird questions, like think like your customer. What are the questions that they ask you? Ask questions like that. Test those so that before you go live, you don't embarrass yourself too bad. But look, remember, we're all human. No one's perfect. And this is one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we are letting our audience know that this is not a real human, but this is an AI, this is an AI chatbot and things in that regard. And also have some of your customers and some of the members of your team, try and break it, things in that regard. So let's move on to review generation and referral automation. And I feel like we're a little behind schedule, so I'm going to pick things up a little bit because the live demos. I think you're all going to really appreciate this. I'm going to give you a little tease. One of the live demos is going to be an AI voice agent. So that's going to be the third demo that I do. So let me try and hurry up and pick up the pace. So look, your best salespeople, they actually work for free. And in fact, they actually pay you. By the way, I know you already read this, but they're your existing customers. Look, 3 out of 4 consumers or customers, they check online reviews before contacting that of a local business. Remember, your prospects, they're searching for a security company near me. They're looking at, and look, all of them? No, I'm not saying all of them do this, but many of them do. And they're looking at that of the review count. They're looking at ratings. They're looking for recency. They're looking for, are you responding to the reviews? Are you liking them? Is there engagement? Your happiest customers, they want to help. But guess what? They need to be asked. Ask and ye shall receive. The problem is most security companies, they ask inconsistently, or they don't do it at all. That potential review, as a result, it never happens. But here's the solution. Automation helps fix this. Now, every happy customer gets asked every single time. Now, by the way, I want to preface this by the human element. Automation can help, but the best thing to do is to transition that of your organization to a reviews-based organization. Every single time you're meeting with a customer, you're having that personal touch. You're not leaving that conversation. You're not leaving that interaction without them leaving a review for you. But automation can help this on the back end. Now, if you take into consideration so if you want to take a quick snapshot, because I'm gonna jump ahead here really quickly, but you can have this once the job is marked complete. You can have your systems automatically text, because keep in mind the text is going to get better response than that of email. I'm gonna keep moving forward because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to go through, because I think there may be a couple of questions and things in that regard that are going to be coming through. So you take into consideration not just once the job is marked complete, but you can also, for those that have not left a review, you want to confirm, by the way, that they're still happy, but you can have a 30-day after installation, have these things sent as well. Some of the incentives that work for that of referrals, as an example, and by the way, we're speaking about referrals now, not just that of reviews, is you can do things that are anywhere from 1 to 3 months of free monitoring, perhaps a $50 gift card, $100 gift card, service credits for upgrades. And by the way, for both, you can even do charitable donations. It just depends on who are your customers and what are important to them. I even would say get a little more grand, like give $150, $200 to your existing customer and give a credit or an upgrade credit to that of the new new customer that they're being referred, and things in that regard as well. Because keep in mind, referrals are going to be the shortest sales cycle, and they're going to be layering services, generally speaking, with a higher conversion rate. So let's talk about social media just for a second. I'm going to zip through this because I know we're running low on time. Is 15 minutes per month, and we can do some serious damage here. So I want to be really upfront with you, by the way. For most, social media is not a massive lead gen channel. It's not where we're going to go viral, and it's not worth hours of our time daily. What it is, and this is, if we're all being honest with ourselves, we can all address this. We can all agree to this, I would say, it is a credibility check. It's proof that we're active, we're a real business, we're local, from the community, for the community, and that we're actually legitimate. And it's also where prospects, in many cases, they size us up, right? They go to Google, they go to our social channels. They want to know that we're real, that we're a real business with real people that genuinely care about their customers. Look, our next customer is probably already looking at that of our business. And perhaps they're even scrolling through that of our social feed, sizing us up. What is it saying? Look, the goal is not necessarily to become an influencer, but it's to look like we're a real live business that's run by real people. So if you take into consideration this three-step workflow, is we want to, in our, call it LLM of choice, and this is a very basic prompt, but a basic prompt is create 8 social media posts for our security company, mix of tips, Cecil reminders, and insights. 30 seconds and it's done. I would actually go a step further and I would add context. I would start adding context so that things are hyper personalized about who we are. Because we don't want generic, we've seen a lot of that generic stuff, that blah, 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 blah. So I would have it ask you questions to interview you to help get the answers, to help personalize it. Because remember, we may be working with everyone in our market. We may only work with businesses of certain types. We may only work with SMBs in commercial. We may only work with Resi as an example. But we want to make sure that remember, I go back to what I mentioned in the beginning. It's the right audience. We want to get the right message in front of the right audience at the right time. We want to make sure that it's using like we're editing it. We're not just, okay, something comes out and all of a sudden we're just posting it. That's not how we want to approach that. We want to make sure that we're editing it. Because look, these things hallucinate. They say things that they think make sense. That sounds great, but we don't want to just sound slick. We want to make sure that we are doing things that are truly generating value and things in that regard. And that ultimately, instead of us manually doing things, and by the way, you can take a snapshot of this. You can use a tool like a Buffer, like the free, or in many cases, the CRMs that we already work with have scheduling tools so that we can schedule posts, ideally like once or twice per week, so that we're showing that we're real companies and things in that regard. So look, don't sleep. I know we've talked about this a number of times before in previous webinars, but don't sleep on your Google business profile. In many cases, in most cases, it's more impactful than Facebook or Instagram for that of security companies. And here's the thing. When someone searches for that of, let's say, security company near me, Google shows that of the Mac path first or high up in the search results page. And our listing is often seen before that of our website. So from the GBP perspective, a couple of wins are, we want to make sure that we're posting updates weekly. These things take just minutes. We want to add photos, recent installs, things about that of our existing, pictures of our vehicles, pictures of our facility, showing, how we're pre-programming things, showing how we do things unique and different. We want to make sure that we are responding to reviews every single time. And what I mean by responding as a reminder, we're liking it, we're putting the thumbs up, we're having a thoughtful response. You can create templates that are easily editable because you're going to notice over time, and many of us that have a lot of reviews, they're similar, so you can create frameworks that can be slightly edited so it does not take you a lot of time. And by the way, not everyone does this, but you do want to ideally enable messaging. Now, if you do enable messaging in your Google Business Profile, you've got to make sure that you have a member of your team that is there to run that and to respond immediately or as quick as possible. A couple of ideas for the page posts are safety tips. We can do promotions. We can show recent work. We can talk about FAQs, like monitor versus unmonitor. We want to make sure that we're communicating all the services that we're doing. We're making it evident. And remember, these things are for users to read, but they're also signals for Google to let Google know what it is that we're all about and things in that regard. So here's a tip prompt here. So write a 100-word Google business post, Google business profile post about home security tips in the springtime. Now, I would be a lot more extensive than that. Remember, give it more context, have it interview you so that it is giving you an output with information that's going to be useful to users as well as to that of Google. Okay, when we take into consideration that of the 80-20 framework, let's talk about where we invest our time. And remember, not all automation is created equal. So 20% of our automation investments will generate most of our results. Okay, so companies that fail. So remember, I mentioned this a few minutes ago. If we try and do everything at one time, we're going to fail. We're going to get overwhelmed. We're going to quit. Whereas if we identify 1, 2, or 3 high impact automations first, and we do them with reasonable expectations, then we're going to see results fast. We're going to build momentum, and we can look to invest more in that with our time and with our resources. So look, here's the key question. Where are leads falling through the cracks right now? And I want you to think about that. Where are leads falling through the cracks right now? And that will achieve multiple goals. Number one, it's going to get us on that automation train. And number two, it's going to solve one of our biggest challenges. Because remember, we want to fix the leak before we add more water. It's really important. Here's a couple of things to take into consideration. Our web leads getting follow-up within 24 hours? Our after-hours inquiries being captured? Are happy customers being asked for reviews? And is our Google business profile, is it active? Okay, so in terms of our priority matrix, so from the immediate perspective, we can look at lead nurture sequences. We can also look at automated review requests. We can do Google Business Profile posts, and we can have a basic AI chatbot. And as we move on to the next phase, we can talk about a referral program automation. We can do advanced social scheduling. We can do upsells and cross-sell automation. By the way, this is why data is key. You want to make sure that we know of our customers. I'm making this up, but let's say that we have 8 services that we provide, and on the average, our customers, our end user customers, are at taking advantage of 1.5 aspects of the solutions that we provide. If we know these customers are security, these customers are video, these customers are this, these customers are that, then ultimately over time, when we get into phase 2 and phase 3, we can automate some of the outreach to them with providing them information that's hyper personalized to them about the advantages of, let's say, for those that have video surveillance, layering services like video verification, remote guarding, things in this regard. We can personalize it in talking about how we can layer this. Because remember, the dirty word in our industry is what? It's attrition. The more layered services that we have, the lower the attrition will be in things in that regard. And then obviously, voice agents for inbound calls and things in that regard. So look, the ROI is real. I'm going to zip through this because I want to make sure that we can go through that of a couple of examples, because I know we're running low on time. But look, you do not want to set it and forget it. You don't want to automate too much too fast. You want to make sure that each of these things are all interrelated. We want to make sure that we, in fact, are connecting the dots. You don't want to lose the human touch, and you don't want to ignore what you already have. Remember, the technology is a tool. Like I heard this from not a mentor, but someone that I listen to podcasts to. He said, "A fool with a tool is still a fool." And my point being here is strategy is really important, and we want to make sure that we're solving problems. Okay, so let me go through some quick live demos, and we are going to do this first, and we are going to, let's see. Okay, so Vicky, the recording will come out a little later today, and I'm going to quickly go through some live demos here. Okay, so I'm purposely demoing this on our website, and we are testing a lot of these things. So let me enter my name here, and I'm just going to put a fictitious number. Okay, so this is, and by the way, with this, we are automatically, not automatically, we are constantly evolving this. So what we're seeing right now will continue to get better and better. But you'll see here, I just entered my information. It said, give us a minute to assign the best person to help you. Okay, hi, I'm SD Marketing's AI assistant, here to help answer your questions 24/7. How can I help you? To make sure I provide the most relevant information, could you tell me what type of security company you have? For example, alarm integration, fire guard, or manufacturer/vendor. So I'm going to say I'm a security alarm company. I need help with marketing. Can you help me? And remember, these tools it's not like you set it, you add the code, and all of a sudden it knows all these things. We have to provide it with a lot of data in order to be able to have these, some would say intelligent, some would say somewhat intelligent conversations back and forth. So its response now is absolutely. We help security alarm companies with proven marketing campaigns, including website optimization, local SEO strategies tailored to generate leads. Can you share your company's location? Okay, we'll just say we're based in Los Angeles. How can I speak with a real person? Okay, and it looks like my camera is on Union, so I'll turn it back on in just a sec here. Okay, so here is where you can book a free strategy session with David, or I can have Isabella from our team contact you directly. So if I were to click on this, it would allow me to instantly schedule a meeting. And today is the 20th, so I can click here and I can choose any of these times. So there's one example. I'm going to show you one more example really quick, or two more examples, but here's the next one. Let's see here. Okay, so I had mentioned workflows and things in that regard. So usually in your CRMs, like the HubSpots of the world, the Zohos of the world, here's an example of like an automation. So let's say, for example, when you schedule an appointment with someone, when you schedule an appointment with someone, ideally you want to make sure that they're showing up. So instead of manually doing this, and this is just one of dozens, if not hundreds of applications for this. So let's just using this as an example. And by the way, we're continually evolving these types of things. So let's say when the appointment status is confirmed, what happens is internally, meaning for us internally, we get a notification. Also, there is a confirmation email that is sent to that of the prospect. At the same time, there is an SMS that is sent to the prospect. Now, 24 hours before the appointment, there is a reminder email that is sent out to that of the prospect. 1 hour before the appointment, there's an internal notification, so it reminds us, hey, in 1 hour, we have a meeting coming up, and it gives us the information. Also, there's an email that is sent saying we have 1 hour to go. And not to get too much in the weeds here, but you can literally personalize what the subject line is, what all the information that's going in there, all this other good stuff. with each of these steps. Okay, then fast forward to 15 minutes before that of the meeting, there's an internal notification to remind us once again that we have that of an internal, we've got that of an internal, just that internal reminding us of that. We have an email and we have an SMS, and then the actual meeting occurs. So with that said, I'm going to show you one last thing. I know we're a little over time, but if you can just spare 2 or 3 more minutes with me, I'm going to show you something that is really cool. I think you guys are going to really like this. So let me stop the share. Let me turn this back on. You should be able to see me. So what I'm going to do is really quickly, I am going to, hopefully this works. We are testing, this is not live yet, but this is in beta mode right now. So I am going to do a live demo, whereas the newest member of our team, Liam, who is an AI voice agent, is going to call me. And imagine if I called into it, but it's for demo purposes, it's calling me. So I just entered my info. Hello, this is David.
Hey, David. Thanks for calling ESD Marketing. How can I assist you today?
Well, I own a security company and I need some help with marketing. How can you help me?
Got it, David. In helping security companies like yours grow through data-driven marketing strategies. We offer tailored solutions, including our accelerated marketing program, AMP, which provides a clear step-by-step plan to get more leads and keep your phones ringing. We also create custom marketing plans designed specifically for your business goals and market. Would you like to set up a quick strategy call with David Morgan, our co-founder, to discuss how we can help?
Yes, I am. But once again, do you work with other security companies? Do you have a proven track record?
Absolutely, David. We exclusively work with security companies, dealers, integrators, manufacturers, alarm companies, and off-patrol services. In fact, we've helped over 300 security businesses grow using proven data-backed strategies. Our approach is methodical, not guesswork, and we focus on what actually drives results, like getting the right leads and keeping your phones ringing. Would you like me to check available times for a strategy call with David Morgan?
Yes. When do you have availability tomorrow? Are you
available times for tomorrow, January 21st, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 2:45 p.m.? Do any of these work for you?
Yes, let's do the 1 p.m. Thank you very much.
You're all set, David. Your strategy call with David Morgan is scheduled for tomorrow, January 21st at 1 p.m. Pacific time. You'll receive an email with all the details and a Zoom link for the meeting. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
No, that'll be it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, David. Thanks for taking the time to connect with us. Have a great day, and we'll talk tomorrow at 1 p.m. Bye for now.
Okay, so I know we're over by a couple of minutes, and I appreciate you hanging with me. For some of you, this may be the first time you've ever come across anything like that. Was that perfect? No. Are there some bugs that we're working on? Yes. It knows who I am because in our CRM, it has my phone number. So it already has all my email address, all that other stuff. But where I'm going with this is where we're going as an industry. If this is something that you would like to learn more about, I would suggest if you'd like to be on the beta tester for these kinds of things, I would suggest for you to reach out to Isabella and schedule a time with us, and we can talk about this. Uh, Let me go back really quickly as we're just wrapping things up. And I really appreciate you guys hanging with us for a couple of extra minutes. We're literally going to wrap up here in about 60 seconds. Okay, so I'm not going to talk, I'm going to skip through these slides. I just want to talk about that of where we're going. There are some key takeaways. You'll be able to pause this in the recording if you'd like to read these slides. A big thanks once again to our team. A big thanks to that of NAPCO and to Recognize. Once again, they will be at ISC West at 12031 and booth 34045. Please let them know your friends at SD Marketing sent you. Also, I'd love for you to spend some time with us. I also will be leading 2 sessions at that of ISC West as well during the week. Look forward to seeing each and every single one of you there. A big thanks. And I want to just really quickly announce that of our next webinar. So we're going to talk about we're going to do a deep dive into website. We're going to talk about visitor to lead in 60 seconds. So we're going to talk about conversion formula and conversion optimization on websites. That's going to take place February 26th from 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. A big thanks, a big thanks. I know a number of you stayed on, so I really appreciate that. I know many of you probably had meetings already scheduled. So a big thanks. Really looking forward to seeing each and every single one of you at ISC West. And until next time, make it a great day.